How do we deal with bad decisions? Before we talk about that, though, let's first understand what is a bad decision. If you're like most people, you probably think that a bad decision is the decision that you make which results to bad outcomes. For example, I thought that going back to college was a bad decision because 4 months ago, business was booming. I had $20,000 per month of income, like 90% profit, and I had clients from all over the world who I was able to visit, travel across the world in Europe and Asia. I met them and everything was going well. In a way, you could call my life back then as a very successful life. But then I decided to go back to college. And since then, things went a bit sideways. You see, my business partner during that time, we were together for 1 year already, decided to quit and to steal some of my clients. And that was a punch in the gut that I didn't expect because I trusted him. But I was fine with it because, human nature. That happens. I can always imagine a world where that happens. I've seen it in movies and I've seen it in real life as well. But then it didn't stop there. Some of my clients left as well and didn't pay me. So that kind of sucks. And along with that, school became more hellish for me. I never really struggled with school. I was actually very good at it. I only started business because I needed the money. I left home early and I was forced to look for an income. School was pretty easy for me before, but then when I got back, it just became an ideological mess. It's just everyone in my university was just full of ideology. I don't even know how to explain it, but it was just everyone lived in an echo chamber and believed certain things without really thinking them through. They just believe opinions to be facts without a solid basis. And I didn't really jive with that. So I had a horrible time my first few months. And with all those happening, I thought that I made a bad decision. I thought that I should have just continued with the business and I should have just focused on being successful, right? But looking back at it, I don't think it was a bad decision because recently I learned that the quality of your decisions are not defined by the outcome. For example, you could drive and be drunk, right? You could be like hammered, absolutely hammered. You just downed a bottle of tequila or whatever. And you drive and you get home. That was a good result. You got home safe. You only scratch your car a few times, but you did it. So in a way it was a good result. But the decision was pretty faulty because most of the time that wouldn't happen, right? Now, the other case, you could be perfectly following the rules of the road and making the right decisions, making the right calls, not swerving, following the traffic lights, staying on your lane. But then there's this maniac who downed a bottle of tequila that just crashes into you. That's a bad result. But did you make a good decision? Yes. And that just shows you how the quality of your decisions doesn't always result to the quality of your algorithm. It isn't proportional to the result of your decision. You can make good decisions and get bad outcomes. You can make bad decisions and get good outcomes. But most of the time, if you make good decisions, probabilistically speaking, you will get good outcomes. That's why people who follow the traffic rules will more likely be safe. People who don't follow it will less likely be safe. That's all luck at that point, right? When you follow all the rules and you still end up getting bad outcomes, then you probably had bad luck. That was very bad luck. It wasn't. It was outside your control. But if you, on the other hand, if you didn't follow the rules and you had a good outcome, you're very lucky man. So anyway, back if we get that idea and apply it to what happened to me, I decided to go back to college for one main reason, and that is I wanted to be free. I was making a lot of money, but I still felt trapped because I am a third world country citizen. I live in the Philippines, and it's very hard for me to travel. I always need to ask permission. I need to ask permission from the government. I need to ask permission from the embassies if I want to go to the if I want to go to Europe, for example. I needed a visa. In Hong Kong, for I can only stay there for I think 14 days. And in other countries, I'm always at risk basically, and I never felt like I was free. So what I wanted to do was to get a residency in a different country and hopefully get a passport there so that I wouldn't feel trapped. Um, I could justify more on this. Like, I think I might have limited information on this, but that's what I believed. That's what I knew, and that's why I went back to college so that I can apply for the residency. The problem was, or another option that I had at that time was to continue the business, and after 5 years, if I have a legitimate business with a legitimate income, I could be able to apply. But I decided to go back to college because I only had 1 year left in college, 2 semesters exactly. Actually, the next semester is my last semester, and I'll be graduating. So those are my two options if I wanted to transfer to another place. I went with the university option. And at that time, I also thought that I had a solid business partner. We've been working for a year, and I trusted him. Like, he had access to things. He had access to my accounts. He showed himself trustworthy. He did his job. He was a great partner, but he was also a bit young. That was something that I didn't take into consideration. Well, he's in my age range. I'm 23. I think he's 20 or something like that. I thought, and he was hungry. That's what I thought. But I just realized it's also that we were both immature, and that's why that happened. But at that time, I thought he was trustworthy. I also thought that my clients were trustworthy because we have been doing business for over 6 months. But then they didn't pay me, and that I believe is a bit of a bad luck. Now, you could argue that, hey, Nathaniel, you should have known that. You should have known these possibilities. Yes, I knew. Like, it was a possibility. But I took the bet that they wouldn't do it, you know? And that's kind of like life. You don't have all the information. You got to take bets, and sometimes you lose bets. And that really is it. That's really what decisions are, especially with incomplete information, because we're not ChatGPT, we're not Google, who has an abundant amount of information. We are limited to what we understand, and what we understand is like what we want to understand, basically. Sometimes there are things that catch us off guard, and at those moments the best way to deal with it is to just learn and to accept it. And I guess we come to the answer to the question of this video, which is how do we deal with bad decisions. First, understand whether you actually made a bad decision, or you made a good decision with a bad outcome. Understand that, because if you bully yourself thinking that you made a bad decision when you actually did make a good decision, it was just a bad outcome, then you wouldn't be able to do the next step, which is to analyze the situation. You won't be able to properly analyze what information you had that led to your choice properly. If you understand that you may have made a good decision, it was just a bad outcome, then you could understand what are the things that happened, what are the information you had during that time, and what are the information that you missed. Right? So next time that you make decisions, you can look for those hidden information that you didn't expect. So once you understand, once you analyze whether your decision, you're doing an outcome bias, that's what they call it, when you base it off of the results. Once you understand outcome bias and you study what led to your decision, improve your decision making process. Basically, try to be aware of the black swans, the information that you don't know you need, and be better next time. That's just really it. This is a very corny punchline for this video, but I don't know. I think that's the best thing I can tell you. Life is random, and really sometimes you can have a 7% chance of losing and still lose, because it is possible. All right. I remember the universe had 0.00001% of existing, and yet the Big Bang happened. You know, and that's the difference between probability and possibility. Things that are probable are possible, and things that are not probable are still possible. So yeah, that's my reflections on it. Next time that you make a bad decision, really dig deep. See whether you see the biases that you're doing, and be objective on what information you had and what information you could have. So yeah, that's it.